Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another draft video. AFC East today, shortest intro out of all of them. Let's just hop straight to it, man. Over halfway. I think this is 6 out of 8, so I got the AFC West and North left after this. But man, so much for the 8 videos in 8 days, huh? I was bullshitting about that, wasn't I? This actually took a lot more work than I thought it did because I'm more in depth this year than I was last year. So take it for what you will. First up, we got the Patriots. Obviously, had a lot of work to do on offense, starting with the quarterback, building out their receiving core. I thought their offensive line needed help. So Patriots, they're basically starting from the bottom, if we're being honest. Them and who else was it? Nah, I think the Patriots straight up were just the worst roster on paper coming into the draft. So let's see what they did with that. Number one, or number three, sorry, they took Drake May. I gave this an A plus. I was assuming that the Commanders would take Jaden Daniels, or sorry, they would take Drake May and Jaden Daniels would fall to the Patriots. If that was the case, I'd still have given it an A plus, or maybe an A actually. But I believe that Drake May is the better quarterback between him and Jaden Daniels. And for the Patriots to get him at 3, I think is amazing value. They didn't trade this pick back, thankfully. They stuck and took the best player in the entire draft available, quarterback wise, I guess, outside of like Marvin, Brock Bowers, and shit like that. But I gave it an A plus because I would not have done anything differently if I was in the Patriots situation. And at number 37, top of the second round, they decided to give Drake May a number one receiver, or possibly a number one receiver. Jalen Polk out of Washington. I gave this an A. Did people think he'd get drafted before? For example, A.D. Mitchell, Troy Franklin. No, I don't think anybody thought that. But I think the Patriots did their research. They knew what they wanted, and A.D. Mitchell was on the board. If they thought he was a better receiver, they would have taken him. I probably still would have taken A.D. Mitchell. But I think Jalen Polk at 37. Only thing that matters is that the Patriots took a receiver with this pick. If we want to get into semantics over who might be better in the future, I don't know. But I think Jalen Polk does a lot of things really well. I think he gets open downfield, great route runner, amazing hands, uses his length, his body to create lanes and great contested catch player. I gave this an A because the Patriots needed a receiver and they drafted one of the best on the board. So I love this pick if I'm the Patriots. Number 68, we got Caden Wallace, offensive tackle out of Penn State. I gave this a B plus. Um, it's not amazing value. Caden Wallace. It's simply they needed help with the offensive line, right? And when you look at Caden Wallace, you're looking at a guy who, according to some people, was the best available. According to some others, not so much. But I think he can play tackle in the NFL. Obviously, you lose Trent Brown, sorry. So you did need help on the offensive line. I would have simply just liked another receiver with this pick. There were guys available, but Caden Wallace at 68, I gave it a B plus. And I like the fact that the Patriots are sticking to offense because, quite frankly, who cares how bad their defense is? If I'm the Patriots, right, I'm looking at this like I'm the Panthers, where we're not making the playoffs. I don't care how many changes we make. I don't care how good our offseason is. We're not making the playoffs next year. The only thing we can focus on that could be a win for us, a success for us, is making life as easy as possible for our young quarterback. I think the Panthers are doing a good job at that. I think the Patriots right here with these first 4 draft picks are also doing a great job at that. Number 103, we got Layden Robinson out of Texas A&M. I think it's very good value. Interior offensive line, not as much potential at tackle, but hey, you attack outside of offensive line with number 68. Number 103, you go inside. I gave this a B plus as well. Again, it's not amazing value or anything like that, but it's a good player, good value for the spot, and it helps build the offensive line for your young quarterback. So I like both of these picks. I gave both of them B pluses because I cannot fault a team for improving the offensive line for an incoming young quarterback. Number 110, Javon Baker, wide receiver at UCF. I gave this an A minus as well because Javon Baker, extremely talented player. Some guys had him at the end of the second round, top of the third round. He falls to the fourth round here for the Patriots. Like that, I mean, that's very good value. He's a very explosive player, not the fastest, in the 40-yard dash or anything like that, but he plays faster. He plays very explosive. Get the ball in his hands and he makes magic happen. So I gave him an A minus. It's a great pick. The first 5 picks, the Patriots got their franchise quarterback, 2 potential starting wide receivers, and 2 potential starting offensive linemen. That is an amazing job to walk away your first 5 picks with that type of an offensive haul. And quite frankly, I don't care if they didn't draft a single defensive player in this draft because I don't care how bad their defense is next year. Make Drake May's life as easy as possible. Number 180, they drafted Marcellus Dial, cornerback out of South Carolina. They did need help at cornerback. They lost several DBs in free agency. I think Jonathan Jones, did he go to jail or did he get suspended? Didn't he bring a fucking gun to an airport? I don't know. But they needed help at cornerback. Only problem is Marcellus Dial projected to go undrafted. So taking a guy who was projected to be undrafted at 180, not great value. So I gave that a B minus. You know, Patriots always draft a guy who was projected to be way, way later. So bit of a reach, very big of a reach, but you know, it is what it is. Gave it a B minus. Number 193, Joe Milton the third. Yeah, I gave this a D. Doubling down on quarterback, I just don't really get it. You know, 193, I'm sure there are a lot of other available players that could have helped you in some way. Joe Milton is just honestly because I prefer the Patriots to have a vet on the team, right, to try and teach Drake May to show him the ropes per se. I don't necessarily know if I want Joe Milton on the roster as well to, you know, I don't like the pick. I gave it a D. I think it was their worst pick overall. And I don't really see the benefits of this, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't like that pick at all. Number 231, though, I really like this pick. Jaheim Bell, tight end slash running back out of FSU. I gave this an A, and I also thought it was their steal of the draft. I thought Jaheim Bell was a third to fourth round guy who he didn't necessarily have a position, right? He's a little too small to be a pure tight end, but he's a little too slow to be a primary running back. But I figured for a creative offensive coordinator, you figure out a way to get Jaheim Bell 80 to 100 touches and well over 700 yards, right? I think he's a valuable weapon for any team in the NFL. In the Patriots, they spent a seventh round pick. They took a shot on him. And I really do think that if they give him a chance, he will find ways to produce, right? Whether it's as a blocker, catching passes out of the backfield or from the tight end spot, put him in the slot. I don't know how you use Jaheim Bell in the NFL, but I know there is a way. So I'm excited to see the Patriots try and figure that out. And look, overall, I'm very happy with the Patriots draft. They walked away with a lot of guys, mainly offensively. Honestly, I'm not sure if Marcellus Dial is going to do anything for this team. So I don't. I will say this. I think the Patriots walked away with this draft from only offensive players, right? And I support that because, like I said, there's a 0% chance they make the playoffs next year. Their number one goal, the only light at the end of the tunnel for the Patriots right now is Drake May pans out and Jalen Polk and Javon Baker are valuable weapons. And eventually, 2, 3 years from now, you start getting things on track. But right now, I like this draft. I gave it a 6.0, which is a B plus. And I think that's an accurate grade. The Patriots did a lot of good things with this draft class. Next up, we got the Jets. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers coming back. Who knows if it's his last season? But regardless of that, the offense around him is not good enough. The Jets, similar to the Patriots, we knew they had to invest a lot of picks into this offense at all three levels: wide receiver, offensive line, maybe even running back. They definitely invested in running back. And let's see how they handled that. First off, they traded back one spot from number 10 to number 11 and drafted Olu Fashanu. First of all, this is an amazing trade because they were going to draft Olu Fashanu anyways, but they traded back one spot with the Vikings, who made a horrible move. I don't know what they gave up exactly, but it was way too much to move up one spot to draft a guy that we're going to get anyways. So the Jets fleeced the Vikings and in the process took the guy at 11 they should have taken at 10, and that's Olu Fashanu. I gave this an A plus because I had him mocked the Jets the entire time. This is one of the most obvious picks in the draft, and that's what they did. They didn't overthink things. Not only did they draft the guy they were supposed to, but they fleeced the team in the process. So that gets an A plus, a very very good A plus. It was an amazing move. Number 65, and let me talk about Olu Fashanu a little bit more. The player. They got Tyron Smith in free agency. They traded for Morgan Moses. They lost Mekhi Becton, so they got a couple veteran tackles, but they don't have any young option there after they either leave or in Tyron Smith's case, he gets hurt. So Olu Fashanu is a guy who hopefully does not have to play year one, but if Tyron Smith goes down, Morgan Moses is ass or goes down, Olu Fashanu can step in right away, play, and hopefully be a very good tackle for the Jets immediately, and obviously in the future can be a potential franchise left tackle. Moving on. Malachi Corley, first pick in the third round. I really love this pick. I gave it an A. Would I have taken him over a guy like Troy Franklin? Me personally, no, I would not have done that. However, I think Malachi Corley is an extremely good player. The Yak King, I think, as he is known. Get the ball in his hands. He is extremely physical. Think Debo Samuel. He's a monster physically. So I really, really like this pick. Um, the Jets wide receiver core was not good enough last year at all, anywhere close. Outside of Garrett Wilson for the last couple years, he just doesn't have any help. So Malachi Corley, hopefully, is going to step in immediately and contribute to that receiving core. Obviously, they got Mike Williams as well in free agency. So now you're going from just Garrett Wilson to Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley, and Mike Williams. That's a pretty good job at upgrading your receiving core if you're the Jets. So I like that pick a lot. I gave it an A. Braylon Allen at 134 at Wisconsin. I really like the player. I really like the value for the player. When I think of the Jets, I think, well, they already got Breece Hall. They already got Israel Bonaconda last year in the fourth round, I think. Fourth or fifth round, maybe sixth round, actually. I don't even know. But I don't mind the pick of Braylon Allen because although I would have liked this to be offensive line, I think you could have drafted a very good interior offensive lineman at 134. But Braylon Allen, I think if he comes in and he's your mauler. He's your power back. He's your short yardage guy. Because Breece Hall, yeah, he can do that, but he's more of an outside guy, elusiveness, get the ball in his hands on the outside, elusive running. Braylon Allen is a grinder. You know what I mean? So I think he has a role on this team immediately, which is why I don't hate this pick. I gave it a B actually because I think it's a really good player at really good value. So I think he could contribute year one as a third and short, fourth and short, goal line type of guy. So I see the vision. And I think 2, 3 years from now, him and Breece Hall could be a very, very deadly combination. Next, we got Jordan Travis out of FSU. I gave this an A minus, and I also gave it as their steal of the draft. Without an injury, it's like the Hendon Hooker situation, obviously. Without the injury, how high does he go? I'm not sure. Pre-injury, I probably thought Jordan Travis was a second or third round guy. I do not think at all he was a first round kind of guy. He just doesn't have those type of traits. But second or third round guy for sure. I think I get him in the sixth round. Is that sixth or fifth round? Maybe it's fifth round. But look, they needed some type of a plan post Aaron Rodgers because Zach Wilson was not it. So Jordan Travis, can he even play day one? I doubt it actually. Was it December he suffered that injury? So who knows? Who knows when he comes back? But maybe he does play preseason. Maybe he does play available to play day one. But obviously the goal is that he sits a year. Who knows what Aaron's going to do next year? But Jordan Travis with a year to sit back, I like the pick. When you have an old veteran guy, I really do enjoy the idea of drafting a guy like Jordan Travis, who was the best quarterback available, the best out of the not top six. So I like the pick, right? But obviously the reason it's an A minus, not an A or an A plus, because in a perfect world, a contending team, you spend a pick on a guy who's not going to contribute next year. So that's the only negative I have with this pick. But overall, I do like it. 173, Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State, a running back. I didn't like this pick at all. Let me explain why. First of all, Isaiah Davis led the FCS in rushing yards, I believe. I think like over 1,500. So shout out to him. Dominated at the FCS level. Sorry, but this is the fourth running back you've drafted in the last 2 years, I believe. Right? Breece Hall, Abanikanda, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis. Why? Why at all would you spend another pick on a running back here? Because if everything goes according to plan, let's say Isaiah Davis doesn't even make the team. If he, pans out and he makes the roster, you probably got a Bonaconda who gets cut next year. So I don't understand. You're setting up a talented young running back room for failure. You got four guys in there who probably deserve to play, but one of them is going to get cut. I don't really understand that. Like, why would you not just roll with the three you already have, including Braylon Allen, obviously, and spend this pick on any other position, probably a defensive back they wanted here. So I don't like this pick. I don't like the morality of it, putting four talented guys in there and only being able to keep three. I don't like this move from the Jets at all. I gave it a D. I definitely thought it was their worst pick. 176. What a name we got right here, by the way. Quantez Stiggers, cornerback out of the CFL. He's a little undersized for a corner, I think. I think his future is at safety because he's a great ball hawk, got his hands on a lot of interceptions in the CFL. But obviously, I mean, I thought They were better, safer options, I'd say. I don't know if this guy makes the roster. Maybe he's just a special teams type guy. I gave it a B minus because they did need help in the secondary, but I'm not too sure Quantez Stiggers is the option. And very last guy, mystery relevant, Jalen Key, safety out of Alabama. They needed help at safety, but I do not think Jalen Key is going to make the roster. He's not a guy. No, he's not a guy who's like a fifth or sixth round guy that fell to the last pick. He was a guy that's probably supposed to go undrafted, got drafted at the very, very end, but I do not think Jalen Key is going to make the roster. So taking a look here, heavy on the offense, a little too heavy, I'd say. I didn't think they needed certainly Isaiah Davis, but Malachi Corley, Olu Fashanu, Braylon Allen, I think all three of those guys are going to step in right away and help make this offense better. I do think the Jets are going to be a very, very good team next season. Came out to a 5.75. I decided not to round up because honestly, with their last, let's see here, with their last four picks, right? Their last four picks, I do not think any of these guys are going to impact them in a positive way year one. I'll say that. So the last four picks, you didn't draft anybody that's going to help the team. I have to hold that against you in some way. So I did not round up. I kept it at a B instead of a B plus for the Jets. Next up, we got the Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins, they lost a lot of talent, namely defensively in free agency. Offensively, you could say they needed some help on the offensive line, certainly. But I think the Dolphins draft was very interesting. Let's get into it. Obviously, number 21, you take Chop Robinson. You know, this is a weird pick. I really never thought this was even possible because I never thought Chop Robinson was going to go this high. I thought Chop Robinson was a guy that maybe he sneaks in at like 29, 30, 31, 32, something like that. But I thought it was more likely Chop Robinson went in the 40s than in the 20s. So that was shocking to me. I thought it was way too high for Chop Robinson, but you also could make a case that he was the best edge rusher on the board. So, but you also had other linemen that were available here, several good linemen. Like I don't have the list in front of me right now, but I think it was Troy Fatanu. Maybe it wasn't Troy Fatanu. I think the Steelers might have taken him at 20, but it was certainly guys like Graham Barton available, and the Dolphins passed on those guys, Jackson Powers Johnson, to take Chop Robinson at 21, especially guys like Johnny Newton. Here's my problem with this. Even cornerback, I thought would have been a bigger need here. There were a lot of other options. And the more options I think of that I would have had over this guy, the grade just goes down and down and down. So I have Chop Robinson as a B minus because look, they did need edge rusher, right? And Chop Robinson, he's a guy who could develop into a very good pass rusher, but he's not there right now. He's a developmental piece. And as a Dolphins, in the Dolphins situation, right, you're trying to contend right now. You're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. Drafting a developmental edge rusher at 21, I'm not sure I love the idea. It's like the Jets last year with Will McDonald. I'm not sure how much I like that. Number 55, you took Patrick Paul, offensive tackle out of Houston. I thought that was their best pick. I gave it an A minus. Some people thought Patrick Paul was a big reach. I disagree with that. Some people had Patrick Paul as like a fourth round grade. I had him as a late second, early third round guy. So we disagree on that. So I don't think it's a reach at all. Only difference is I thought, interior defensive line, cornerback, some other needs you had here, but they decided to go offensive tackle. I'm not sure. Patrick Paul is a massive human, so I'm not sure he even could kick into a guard. So your first two picks, right? You draft two developmental players, right, on the edges, offensive tackle, defensive end. So I just, it's kind of weird, but I see it. I see a world where 2, 3 years from now, both of these guys are very good starters. But for next season, how much does it really help you? I'm not too sure. Number 120, though, this is a funny pick, but I like it, though. Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. I gave it a B minus. I think is that a B minus right there? They gave it a B minus. It's so funny because they have Raheem Mostert, they have Devon A. Chain, and you're like, there's no way the Dolphins need a running back, right? Right? Well, they took one. They took Jalen Wright, and it's so funny because it's like if the Dolphins took a running back, it would be the one that ran the fastest 40 time, right? And that's what they did. Jalen Wright, the fastest running back in this draft, and the Dolphins took him. Listen, Raheem Mostert is not the healthiest guy on earth, okay, but I wouldn't have taken a running back, right? You had needs. Running back was not a need, but look, man, I definitely could see a world where Jalen Wright steps in, gets 50 to 60 carries as a rookie, averages like well over 5 yards per carry, He plays some type of a role, and the next season it goes to 100 to 120 carries, even more. And then 3 years from now, Jalen Wright and Devon Achane are wreaking havoc on the league as the two fastest running backs in the entire NFL. So I see the vision. I see the vision with all these picks, but I just for a team that's trying to make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, no player on this slide, I think, maybe with the exception of Chop Robinson, is going to be a big impact player as a rookie, which I have a problem with. I think it's not self-aware of what you're trying to do. Number 158, though, I really like this pick. Muhammad Kamara, edge rusher out of Colorado State. He was a dominant player in the MAC. I think he had like 27 plus sacks the last 2 years or 25 plus sacks the last 2 years. I think he had like 13 and a half last season. He was a dominant player for Colorado State. Only issues, small school, a little undersized, I think. So he's a B plus for me. Good value too. I thought he could have gone easily higher than this, but double dipping at edge rusher when you need help in the interior of the offensive and defensive line. I wish they would have just not taken Chop Robinson, took Graham Barton, for example, Jackson Powers Johnson, and then at this pick took Muhammad Kamara. I think that would have been a much better decision, in my opinion. But it's not. They double dipped at edge rusher. I think Muhammad Kamara, I like that pick a lot more than the Chop Robinson pick. And now you got a really good young duo there. Number 184, Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia. I like this guy. A little undersized, well, very undersized actually. I think he's like 5'8", 190. So the weight's not an issue, it's just the height. But he's very fast, very good after the catch. He's a very good slot receiver. And honestly, look, man, I know they didn't need receiver, right? But when Tyreek was out, it was not easy for the Dolphins to score, right? So I think they definitely needed a receiver, and there are a lot of good, exciting options they could have taken here. I think Malik Washington is a steal. I think he was supposed to go in the fourth round. Certainly, I think he fell to the sixth right here, I believe. So it's amazing value for a guy who I think could play day one. I definitely think he could win the job and be their slot receiver, even though they did sign Odell actually. So they have a great receiving core now. But I think Malik Washington, certainly, you think of guys like Odell, who's hurt all the time. I think Malik Washington will see the field a lot and make a lot of plays for the Dolphins next season. So I gave that a B plus. Number 198, Patrick McMorris, safety out of Cal. It just shocks me that the Dolphins did not draft a single interior offensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, or cornerback. Patrick McMorris, I don't have much to say about the guy. I gave it a B minus because yeah, safety. I guess you could make the case it was a need. It was not their biggest need. Not a player. Not amazing value for a guy like Patrick McMorris. So I gave it a B minus. Number 241 though, into the seventh round, you take Taj Washington. I really like this pick. Obviously, Taj and Malik both Washington, unrelated. But Taj Washington, I really like the guy, honestly. Out of USC, I thought he was also a little bit undersized. I'll give him that. But an amazing deep threat. This guy was always open down the field for a big play, it felt like. And if Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, sorry, could make it work with Taj Washington, I'm sure Mike McDaniel and Tua can find a way. So I think Taj Washington and Malik Washington are both going to be guys, and throw Jalen Wright in there. 3 years from now, I think all of these guys are going to have a role with this team. But again, it's the story of the Dolphins' entire draft where I just don't think they drafted that many guys who help them right now. So it's weird. I think 3 or 4 years, we could come back to this and say, damn, what a draft class. But next year, that's how I grade it. I grade it, obviously, I'm not trying to do projections. I'm trying to think right now, how does this help the team? And honestly, I gave it a 5.71. I think for next season, it was the worst draft in the division. But overall, still, it was a very good draft for the Dolphins, I think. In due time, we have to wait and see. Next up, we got the Bills here. Bills, obviously, you lost a lot of talent at receiver. You had to cut a couple guys in the secondary. So a lot of established faces are out the door, and you need a new era of guys. So let's see how they handled that. First off, they had Keon Coleman, but it didn't start this way. So you had pick number 28, right? The Bills traded the 28th pick to the Chiefs, and they let the Chiefs take Xavier Worthy. That is arguably the worst move any team made in the entire draft, outside of maybe the Vikings moving up one spot. The Bills let their biggest rival, their arch nemesis, get the fastest player in the history of the combine. I don't know, where is the self-awareness in the Bills front office to say, you know what, guys, I know it's a trade that could help us get a couple more draft picks, but maybe we should not give our arch rivals the fastest player in draft history. Nobody said that. Nobody spoke up. And I just think that's a horrible decision. If they were just stuck at 28 and took Xavier Worthy or took Keon Coleman and took Xavier Legette, I would have given it an A minus or an A or an A plus, honestly. But to trade down and give the Chiefs that guy, Keon Coleman at 33, it's fine value. I don't mind the pick. I think it's a good fit for Keon Coleman and for the Bills. But the process of this pick, the methods to get to this spot was giving the Chiefs Xavier Worthy. So I can't give this pick any high. I don't care how much I like this pick for the Bills. It has to be at best an A minus because you gave your arch nemesis the fastest player that's ever ran a 40-yard dash in the NFL. So I don't know what to tell you. It was just a horrible, horrible move by the Bills front office. Number 60, though, you took Cole Bishop, safety out of Utah. It's a good value pick. Obviously, you lost Jordan Poyer to the Dolphins, I believe. So you needed another option at safety. Cole Bishop is a guy that slots in right away, probably gets that starting position. He's a good player in the run game. He plays his lanes very well. Um, Good in coverage against tight ends and running backs. So he's a traditional safety. I think he's going to start right away. I gave it an A. I thought it was a very good pick, actually. Addresses a need with a very good player. Number 95, you take Dwayne Carter here out of Duke. Defensive lineman, interior most likely. But, you had Troy Franklin on the board. I just simply think that interior defensive line, I see why you take it, right? Because outside of Ed Oliver, you don't have any guy signed past next season. So you need more options there. But I don't think Dwayne Carter is going to play next year. By the way, I didn't realize this was fucking Little Wayne's name apparently. But I don't think Dwayne Carter is going to play immediately necessarily. And you also could have had guys, like Jatavian Sanders. I'm sorry, not Jatavian Sanders, like Troy Franklin, just sitting on the board right there. So that's probably where I would have gone. I don't love the pick, but it's not a bad pick either. I'll say that. But I do think it was their worst pick. Number 128, Ray Davis out of Kentucky. Ray Davis, all these guys, honestly, that went in like the third, fourth, fifth round, you could make a case that they all have an argument to be the best running back in the entire draft. And I could see that with Ray Davis. He runs with a physicality, but he's also incredibly explosive. And if he gets a seam, he might take it all the way. So I love Ray Davis as a prospect. I think the duo of him and James Cook is dangerous, extremely dangerous. So I like the pick. I gave it an A minus. I think it's great value. And I think Ray Davis is going to be a beast in the NFL. So I like that pick a lot. I gave that an A minus because it obviously, running back probably was not a need. So it doesn't really help them compared to some of the other guys they could have drafted. But Ray Davis, still a good player, good value. A minus. Number 141, Cedric Van Pran, center out of Georgia. I gave this an A plus. I think it's the best pick of the entire draft because Van Pran is a guy who I thought could have snuck into the second round, but was for sure a lock for the third round, right? But he fell to 141. This guy might start immediately. They lost Mitch Morse to the Jaguars, I believe. So they need a starting center. Van Pran might be that guy out the gate. So what a pick that was by the Bills to get potentially a day one starter at 141. It's amazing value. I gave it an A plus. I thought it was their best pick in the entire draft. Next we got Edafwan Olufashio, linebacker out of Washington. Here's a guy who was supposed to go in the third or fourth round apparently, but fell all the way to 160. So he's a steal in his own right. Linebacker, definitely not who you're thinking for the Bills. I would have liked to see edge rusher. I would have liked to see cornerback, but linebacker, not mad at it. Obviously, Matt Milano might be getting up there in age, I think, at this point. So Edafwan, I think, could see a role very early. I gave it a B plus. He does, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in Edafwan Olufashuyo, but I gave it a B plus because it's good value for the Bills, and they need more help on defense. 168, Javon Solomon. I thought this was their steal of the draft, even more than Cedric Van Pran, because Solomon, I gave it an A minus because they needed help at edge rusher. Leonard Floyd left in free agency. So Solomon led the entire country in sacks last season. I think he had 16 and a half at Troy. And I understand the argument against him is that small school, lesser competition, but man, I'm sorry. If the guy that leads the nation in sacks falls to 168, it's a steal. It's the steal of the draft. I can't, what am I supposed to say about that? It's an amazing pick by the Bills. I don't care how small, I don't care if he was an FCS player. 16 and a half sacks is 16 and a half sacks. So great job by the Bills. I gave that an A minus. 204, Tylen Grable, offensive tackle out of UCF. Not much to say about this pick, honestly. I don't mind going offensive line in the sixth or seventh round, I believe actually this was. So I gave it a B. Nothing spectacular about this pick. Daquan Hardy, though, the first cornerback they took. Problem with him, he's a little undersized, right? I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", so he's probably not going to be a boundary corner for you, but he could definitely play in the nickel. And he makes a lot of plays. He's very explosive, aggressive in the run game too. I gave this a B plus. I'm not sure if he makes the roster, but I'm almost certain. Well, sorry, I'm not sure if he is a starting corner for you, but I think he certainly is going to be a special teams guy for you right away. And then next up, Travis Clayton out of England. Never played a snap of football, apparently. I think he played rugby in England. So he's a very athletic guy. I don't know if he even has the size to play off. Quite frankly, I'll be honest with you. I don't think the guy makes the roster, so I didn't even bother grading it. But it's a very interesting story for the Bills there. So overall, I gave them a 6.39. I thought it was a very good draft by the Bills. Honestly, man, if they just wouldn't have traded the pick to the Chiefs, we could be talking about one of the best drafts in the entire league. Because the rest of their picks, especially guys like Javon Foster or Javon Solomon, sorry, Cedric Van Pran, Ray Davis, Cole Bishop, they had a lot of really, really good picks, but a couple just dumb decisions, just holding them back. Overall, though, here is how I thought the AFC East draft class turned out. I think the Bills at the top, Patriots with a really good draft, and Jets and Dolphins both had very good situational picks there. So that's going to be it for this video, man. Leave a like if you enjoyed. AFC East, by the way, possibly has a case to be the best drafting division in the entire NFL. So I thought they did a good job. Thanks for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.